Did the Dodgers just reinvent baseball?
They didn't reinvent baseball. When you talk about Otani, I think the really interesting aspect of what you're seeing now is I've been fortunate enough to do some really cool things. I talked to one of the GMs in Major League Baseball specifically about this contract. And the first thing he said is the Dodgers are doing absolutely nothing wrong. These are all rules that are on the books. Anybody can utilize them. So now what it comes down to is who is actually really looking beyond the normal things that we see as sports people, because the obvious example here is Juan Soto from last year. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So Juan Soto gets in a bidding war, basically comes down to the Dodgers and the Mets. The guy from the Mets is a billionaire. He's loaded. He does not want to give in to the Yankees.
Yep.
At the end of the day, Juan Soto chooses a contract that's $1 million more from the Mets than it is the Yankees to play with Mets. That's typically what you and I are accustomed to seeing.
That's a Scott Boras style bidding
This is
war.
Straight up, whoever gives the most money regardless,
Yep,
right? The interesting thing about the Otani deal is a lot of people look at that and they say, how can the Dodgers get away with that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you really easy. They're smart. So first and foremost, what you have to look like at Otani, because basically at the end of the day with Otani, why did he choose this contract?
Yeah.
Right? Well, Otani's smart. He really gets the fact that he is an icon in baseball right now, right? And so from an icon standpoint, to go to a market like LA, which first of all is convenient for him because he's from Japan. So as opposed to going to Toronto or the East Coast or
West
something
Coast
like
market
that,
in general.
West Coast makes a ton of sense for him, right? Second is he's not really concerned with the salary dollars, although he does want to get the max for his career, but he's also making $100 million of endorsements. So it's really interesting to look at. So he's 102 million, 0.5, right? If you want to be technical in what he makes this year, but only 2.5 million of that comes from his salary.
What's the downside of?
I think he's way ahead of the time. I think what you're going to see now is a lot more of these organizations start to utilize money like this. The other big thing that you have to think of is you've got a lot of ownerships in there, right? And so ownership eventually changes hands. Like we've seen teams recently sell. And so what happens in ownership is you're basically passing that liability to the person or entity that purchases your organization down the road. So the simple thing is the Lakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jeannie Buss just sells the Lakers for $10 billion. Everything that goes along with the Lakers are no more her concern.
Mm-hmm.
It passes on to the new ownership deal. So for the people that run Security Benefit, that invested in the Dodgers, there is a really smart thing for them, because who knows if they'll still be the Dodgers ownerships when that contract kicks into play.
Is there any sort of opportunity for if and when the Dodgers change hands, that new ownership group can get out of this Shohei deal, or it's kind of comes with
the contract. So if they buy it, they're buying the contract, right? It would be the same as anything else in any kind of legalese. Like if you buy a company and they have liabilities on the books, you don't get to disregard the company because of the liabilities. That liability comes with the company. So you have to look into that when you're ready to buy whatever organization you're looking for. But you're talking about some really intelligent people, so they know what they're doing.